Hello everyone, welcome to this video about how to prepare for exam AZ400 Microsoft Azure DevOps Solutions with final exam revision. So in this video, I'm going to introduce the idea of the final exam revision and how this video and the associated post or article can help you for the final exam revision. Then I will list all the study material that you can use for preparing for the exam, which are 7 courses provided by edX. It's require around 112 hours to cover all the studying materials. Then I will summarize the learning point for each study topic with some illustrations and quick demos to help you remember and memorize that. But first, let me give you a quick introduction about myself. My name is Mohammed Radwan. I'm a developer technologies MVP and principal DevOps. So I have been doing software development for more than 15 years now. I worked with many projects, helped many customers, heavily participated in the community, worked in many countries for different projects. The more questions you ask, the more we all learn. So I will encourage you, don't hesitate. If you have a comment or question, please leave it in the comment of the video, because this will raise a discussion which will bring more values for everyone. About final exam revision. This video and the associated article and post can help you for the final exam revision. The main idea here that to cover all the studying topics with all the 7 courses, it requires a lot of time for studying. And this could bring a little bit of a challenge to have a final revision before the exam. And this video with the provided article can help you to have a final revision about what is the studying points and what is the keywords. So by reading the final review from this post and this video, it can help you to have your final revision before the exam. Also, it can help you to remember the main learning points when you want to get back to what you have learned and studied, because it will be a little challenge to get back to a big 7 courses with a lot of pages and videos. Before we listing all the study material for the exam preparation, let's talk about the study areas and their weights. So the first is implementing DevOps development process, which has around 20 to 25% weight. The second is implementing continuous integration, 10 to 15. The third is implementing continuous delivery, 10 to 15. Then implementing dependency management, 5 to 10. Implement application infrastructure, 15 to 20. Implement continuous feedback, 10 to 15. Then design a DevOps strategy, which is around 20 to 25. So let's see the material for studying and preparation. Now let's summarize the learning point from the first topic, which is implementing DevOps development and the process. So first, navigate to this post, which you will find in the description of the video. Then go down and start open the material, the studying material for each area, which exists on edX website. So 7 courses. And as we can see, this is the studying material. The first task is VSTS CLI or command line interface. So VSTS CLI is a command line interface that enables us to work with Azure DevOps from the command line, which using the API. And this capability will provide a lot of feature because I can automate many things of the manual task with Azure DevOps. So because I can create a script and then hook this script in an automated pipeline, which can create my tasks in an automated fashion. For example, as we can see here, we can queue a build, we can create pull requests, we can update work items or create work items, we can create project and many others. Of course, not all the commands, not all the APIs available through the CLI, but Microsoft keep developing and adding more capabilities. For example, here how we can display an existing work item by calling the command and giving the ID of the work item. I can see the work item, retrieving the work items, and of course I can update them. Talking about migration code and from TFS to Git. So in order to do that, we have two ways to migrate. The first is using the out of the box by using Azure DevOps, but this is limited to 180 days. And if I want to migrate more, then I can use an open source tool. So let's see that. So navigating to the project, and then from here, I open the repo and start import repository. And we can see here, I can select TFS VC. If we open the documentation, we can see the limitation of the one in 180 days. Also, I can import from Git as well. If I want to implement more days, then I can use an open source tool called TFS Git, which exists on GitHub. And we can see the documentation provide how we can call the command, how to get help, and so on. From Git to Git, it is the same import, or I can use the clone here or mirror. It's also very important to understand different behavior of Git commands. For example, what is the difference between non-fast forward and rebase, or fast forward, squash, clone, remote, repo. And there is a very good post here where it displays the commands in animation. So for example, here, the non-fast forward merge, one commit, 0.2 commits. And here, the rebase, reapplying the commits. The fast forward, moving the head. And the squash, all the commit as one commit and merging them. Also, I have created very good video that explain in animation in details if you want to understand more. For branch and merge, it's very important to understand different branch and merge strategy, especially Git flow and release flow. So for Git flow, this is a very good website for animation that can animate the Git flow workflow. For example, here is the development branch, and I can create a new feature from development branch, make some commits in the feature, then merging the feature. We can see how the merge happen, create another feature, and then here create another feature, commit, and then merging the feature. I can also create a hotfix, which will be from the master branch this time, make different commits, and then merging the hotfix, which will merge the hotfix in the master, so I can have a new version and also get all the changes back to the development branch or the integration branch, so I can have this fix as well for the new feature provided for the next release. Also, the release flow. Release flow is a trunk-based branch and merge strategy. Azure DevOps team using release flow as branch and merge strategy. And there is very good explanation in Microsoft DevOps inside Microsoft explaining the release flow in details. It's also very important to remember that you can use larger file with Git. Moving to the build, we need to remember that the job is a series of tasks that run sequentially on the same target. So we create one job per target because the build definition can have multiple targets. If we have one application that has different components, let's say, for example, an iOS application and an API.NET Core and a web application. So for example, the iOS application will has one job, and this job will run on a target, and this target will be a Mac OS. While the .NET Core, for example, has another job and will run on Ubuntu, for example. And the web application, which is created in native ASP.NET, for example, then this will run on a Windows, which will also run in one job. It's also very important to remember the difference between the targets. So the target can be in the build pipeline, the target can be the agent or the Azure DevOps Server, TFS. And also it's very important to remember the hosted agent. Here, the Microsoft hosted agent. And I need to remember the difference between each hosted agent. For example, if I want to build, as we can see here, .NET Core, then I can choose the hosted agent of Ubuntu 16.04. If I want to build Docker container, then I can use the Ubuntu 16 or Windows 18.03 hosted Ubuntu. So I need to remember the hosted agent images and when I can use each one and with each project. When I talk about the deployment pipeline in the release, it is a little bit different because the deployment pipeline in the release, it could be the build agent or it could be the destination that I want to deploy my application to. This is why the target can be agent or deployment group. To know more about the deployment group, this is the link. And this is also a very good example on how to install tools on the fly on the build agent. Also, this example and lab very good for how to use deployment group. For example, we will have a virtual machine, and this virtual machine, it will be the destination for deploying our application, and then I will using it as a deployment group. So configure the deployment group to deploy that. Okay, talking about security. So the first point is to understand the life cycle of the security or DevSecOps. And before we're talking about the life cycle of the security, let's talk about what is the security is seeking for. First is to make sure that our code, it doesn't include the vulnerability, our source code. The second is our third-party libraries, the open source libraries, it doesn't include the vulnerability. The third is the open source license. So we don't use the license in a way that it violates the license, because maybe I want to use the license in the wrong way, which is not allowed to me within my product. And to bring the security in the DevSecOps, we need to shift left. So we will start from the beginning. So I will secure the pull request with static code analysis, code review, work item linking. Then when I run the continuous integration, it runs static code analysis as well as open source vulnerability scan. And once I deploy to the development environment, I will start run a passive penetration test. And it's very important to know the difference between passive penetration test and the active penetration test. The passive penetration test, it doesn't manipulate the data, and this is why it's run quickly and can be within the CI/CD. But the active penetration test takes longer time, and it's better to have a nightly test run that. So we will run two types of penetration tests. The first within the CI/CD, and the second is the nightly WASP ZAP pipeline. So as we can see in the CI/CD, we run the passive penetration test, but in the nightly WASP, we run the full active penetration test. The WASP ZAP has all the vulnerability, and you can install the WASP on your machine, but it's preferred that we're using the weekly Docker image by WASP. So in this case, we can have all the new vulnerability as a part of the security scan. Also, it's very important to remember that we are going to scan the infrastructure, either the ARM template or the existing environment. And if we found any vulnerability, we will create an automated work items like bugs. So to make sure that we are going to fix them so we can track the fixed vulnerability. I mean, we don't forget this vulnerability. Let's look at on different components. We have here checkmarks. So as we can see, checkmarks is a VSTS task that runs static code analysis and open source analysis. And of course, it provides a good report with the scan result. Also, the white source, the same, it is for open source library, vulnerability, and license. And it's provided as a VSTS task or Azure DevOps build task. It has two types of tasks, as we can see. So I need to know the difference between them and how to use them, how to add the task and the endpoint. The black duck, it is the same as white source for open source vulnerability. We can look at VSTS task with the sample reporting. Bin scheme for binary static analysis. And OWASP-ZAP, as we explained, this where it has all the vulnerability. And this is the Azure DevOps build task. Of course, I can use it as a part of the build or the deployment. We also have the Azure DevOps Security Kit, where it is a kit of security which has documentation and PowerShell scripts that enables to have a security scan with my environment. Here, how can I install the security kit? And here, after the installation, all commands of the security kit. This command run scan for my current infrastructure or my subscription. And then this is the result generated by the security scan. So give me a CSV and also give me a fix script so I can run this script to fix the violation automatically. Also, I will use the Azure DevOps Security Kit for scanning the infrastructure. So it has Azure DevOps build task extension, and it has main two tasks. The first is to scan the ARM template, because this is scanning the source code for the ARM template. And the second is to scan the existing environment. So the first is to scan to prevent the security violation. And the second is to scan to understand the drift for the violation. Also, it's very important to remember the threat modeling by Microsoft Security. What is the steps of the threat modeling? And to always remember, it is very good to implement threat modeling as early as possible, shift left. Also, it's very important to remember the Azure Key Vault and how we are going to store the secrets. For example, I can use the library as a variable group and having Azure Key Vault. Also, how to use the Azure policy. For example, we can put a policy like you can't create a specific virtual machine size in a specific region. And this is how the Azure policy looks like. And here, how can I create different policies within the Azure policy? And then once I have the Azure policy, I can have a release gate which you configure based on this Azure policy. So, for example, as we can see here, this release failed because it doesn't satisfy or it doesn't meet the release policy. Also using the Azure Blueprints. So Azure Blueprints, as we can see, it is a high level above the ARM template and the policy and rule-based access control. So you can think it is something container for the a container, because when you look at Azure subscription, we have the ARM template and this is the highest level. But how about if I want to have many ARM template, I want to manage them? So the Azure Blueprint give a way for enterprise architect to have different policies, different ARM template and role-based control, and applying them to multiple subscription. Of course, I can use Azure Blueprint and Azure Policy for governance and compliance. In this way, I can make sure about my security and my compliance and governance. Service hook, it's like a callback from Azure DevOps that you want Azure DevOps to call other services when some events or some change happened within the Azure DevOps. And to configure service hooks, we just go for the settings and go for service connections and go for add new service connection. And we have different third parties that we can hook our services. As we can see, the usage of the App Center, as we're using it to distribute the mobile application for different users. For example, it is like the same as a private marketplace. So for example, you want to distribute the application for your Canary users for the mobile so they can test it. So you will deploy that to the App Center so they can download it. And also to remember the difference between distribution groups, public, private, shared. And also App Center provide a feedback from users on the new feature and also help for collecting crash and analysis reports while the user or the tester testing the application. This was just listing the main learning point for quick revision. And it will be the same for all the rest of the training. I'm not going to do that for the rest of the exam topics because this will take long time, but instead I'm just explaining to you how you're using this point to remember the needed point for the revision. So if you can review this point and remember what is the usage of this point, it will help you have a final revision before the exam. At the end, I would like to thank you for watching the video. Please, if you have any question or comment, don't hesitate to ask and reach out. You can find more information on the link for my blog that will appear at the end of the video or any related video. Thank you.